Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
There's this millionaire and he's trying to live forever. As of right now, this guy looks 14 years old, but he's done so many procedures, stem cell research, all of these different holistic health medicines to reduce his age. What's interesting though, his father was going through some health declines. He said, we're trying these things with blood, with plasma, and I've been taking my son's blood to rejuvenate my health. Well, how about you take some of my blood to see if it rejuvenates your health? Because it's the same family type. Now, what he said was his father's age decreased or slowed down by 15 years because of the plasma in his blood. Wild. He said it doesn't have to be from the same family.
Whoa.
So check this now. If you think about it, the blood has to come from someone younger than you.
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
Clicks? So what Tucker Carlson was saying, you're about to dive into this whole conspiracy of people taking people's blood.
Like they're drinking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this guy doesn't look 14 to me. He looks 45. But not to miss the point on this, they are absolutely trying to normalize the use of consuming younger blood for health benefits. We've all heard the stories of this happening all over Hollywood. All this video does is show that there's actually science behind doing this. So is this really happening? I think it is.
They were planning to stage an alien attack and to look like we're under some sort of threat, and it was all a false flag, totally a false operation. And that the purpose behind that would be to amass huge amounts of geopolitical power, sort of in a totalitarian way, through military operations. I found out that there were covert programs that were staging alien abductions and mutilations. Everyone thinks those are aliens doing that. I said, no, it's not. The CIA special projects and some other special operations people. How are they doing it? Let me give you a date. October 1954. Is when we mastered what's called gravity control. If you retrieve that kind of technology and some of the brightest scientists in the world, you're going to have huge breakthroughs from the 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way to now. And then those get turned into devices that could absolutely deceive the public about something happening that looks like an alien attack on a village in Brazil.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm sorry, but I'm not a big fan of Dr. Greer. I 100% think he's a government plant. That being said, what he's saying here actually makes perfect sense. And not to get into politics, but the constant attack on Trump makes sense when you take into consideration that he's basically the only candidate that wants to bring the war machine to a grinding halt. And they will defend that source of income till death.
They found genetic DNA evidence of children's teeth in the food, in the burgers, which linked it back to, was it not Wisconsin, Missouri or Wyoming, one of those states that's in the middle of nowhere, where they actually found human meat inside one of the processing plants at McDonald's. And they said, we're not sure how it's happened. Maybe somebody fell in there and they haven't reported it. But between McDonald's closing, the reports of the Japanese McDonald's tried to pass the buck, try to blame it on the Americans, saying, we got the food from the USA. It didn't come from here. And then they said, oh, you know what? That's probably somebody playing a prank. But they're closing a lot of branches down at McDonald's. And McDonald's traditionally, Nick, the last 40, 50 years has been one of the safest franchises you could buy. Because what they do is they do a very, very detailed demographic study of where you're going to put these McDonald's, about the income of the people, where they are, the population. They don't just put them randomly. They're very, very specific about where they are. So human meat in the McDonald's food, including children's teeth that have been ground up and put in there. Very disturbing.
But why?
But why? It's where they hide the bodies. That's what they're saying. You know how many children disappear every year? Where are they going to hide? Say there's 250,000 children disappear in America every year. Where are all the bodies? You know, most people think, what are they going to do? Drive them along the highway? They always get discovered. They never bury them deep enough. You've got weather conditions that expose them, animals expose them. It's hard. You'd be surprised how difficult it is to hide a body. And I'll tell you why I know, Nick, because there's neither North or South Carolina. There's the body farm. Now, the FBI they use this as a training ground. So what happens is when Americans die, they leave the body to science. And what they do in this ground is they put the bodies in different situations. One will be left out, one will be semi-buried, one will be fully buried, one will be buried upside down. They do all these experiments about how the decomposing the bodies helps them with the science when they find a murder victim or a body that they're not sure how it died. So, for example, if a larger man dies on his back, they can tell by the insects and how much fat has dripped out of his body underneath how degraded the grass is and everything to understand how long he's been decomposing for. So they know all about what happens with these bodies, how they do it. They've got all the forensic science about where they're from. There's always genetic evidence.
This one is a bit of a stretch to me. I'm not saying that these guys are making this up or that something like this has never happened, but I don't see them stealing children and then just disposing of them. They're sold as property, so they wouldn't just be disposed of like that, because then you'd have to go out and find more of them. I think it's much more likely that these missing children are near instantly sent so far across the world that finding any trace of them is made nearly impossible. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this kind of content, I make a new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It would be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
This is absolutely sickening.
Papa tells us to hold a knife, and then he puts his big hand on. He pushes it into the neck, cuts it, and after, but when it's upside down, so it's like he goes like. How does the baby become upside down? So you get a string, hang it up, and it's upside down when it's asleep. Well, hang the baby upside down after the. Yes. Miss Margin, the nurse, she injected. Miss Margin is a nurse of our school. She does the injecting. She pretends to be kind to my mom and tries to like say be kind. And then after she injects. She's a nurse, so she pretends to be kind to mom. And she saved me and if I hurt myself, she pretends to be like really kind to us and like look after us and give us ice.
She's a member of the school?
Yes, she's a.
What do they all have? You say they all have a special something that they wear?
Yes, they wear this, but they wear this special kind of shoes. They make
What shoes? What special kind of shoes?
Baby skin shoes. Daniel, Felix, and Max.
Daniel, Felix, and Max.
They work at a shoe shop. Daniel and Felix, yes.
What shoe shops do they work at?
Daniel and Felix, they work in the next to the O2 Centre one in this tube station.
Where?
Just inside the tube station.
In the tube station where? What tube station?
O2 Centre one.
O2 Centre where?
So in the corner. Tube station. I think it's the next Waitress. I don't Hampstead. Finchley Road Station.
The tube station?
Yes. So when you come in, there's this shop, the shoe shop.
Just tell me what they do, these fellows.
And those fellows, they take off the skin. I don't know how.
Skin of whom?
Oh, the baby. The baby.
And they make shoes?
Yes.
And who wears these shoes?
Papa, everyone wears the shoes.
Everyone in the college.
I did a bit of digging through the comments section on this one because the video's description gives nothing to go off of, and apparently this is speaking of the Red Shoes Club of Rome. It would have been nice if that reporter would have stopped interrupting the little girl so we could have heard more of what she was talking about. I don't have much to go off here, but according to the comments, this is an organization that has connections to the actor Tom Hanks and the Pope. Two people I have serious reservations about. Certainly sounds like something worth digging into.
Experiment will show you how they brought blood cells back to life using just sounds. I'm telling you, this is very real. Moreover, you'll see how, after putting sand on a sarcophagus, hieroglyphs started to appear as if they have their own frequency. What you're about to witness is so powerful, you'll want to start incorporating it into your life immediately. Keep watching all the way through. This video is loaded with mind-blowing experiments that are sure to astonish you. Let's begin.
My name is John Stuart Reid, and I'm an acoustic physics researcher. Pythagoras said that music could be used in place of medicine. It got my attention, and I thought there must be some experiments that could be conducted where we can carefully measure the response of music to some sort of healing situation. The first experiment that I conceived of was using blood. You take a vial of blood and you place it into an incubator with a small loudspeaker in the incubator that's feeding music to that blood. At the same time that that's happening, we have another vial of the same blood. We have a Faraday cage, which is electromagnetically screened, but it's also a very, very quiet environment. So that blood is not receiving any music, it's just receiving quiet.
I will never stop being amazed at the idea of frequency healing and the concept of using sound to alter the constitution of the body. I'm convinced that this is how we cure all known illnesses and diseases, through frequency healing technology. Just based on the stories and the structures that were left behind by our previous generations, I think all the evidence points in this direction. We just need more people like this who are willing to step outside of the modern day norms of healthcare and start researching.
Well.
It looks like we've solved the mystery of the Antarctica bloodfalls. It turns out that it actually is blood. Now, it took them 100 years to figure out that the Taylor Glacier gets its red color from nanospheres of iron that is deposited into the water. And once that iron hits the oxygen, it turns red. And then in the article, they go on to say that the ancient microbes were 1/100th of the size of human red blood cells. Now, I think it was pretty weird that they used the red blood cell example to describe the size of the iron deposits. It looks to me as if this is another example of the truth being set in plain sight. The blood falls arise when the ice over the subglacial ecosystem over here melts. Now, here's what I think. I think that the subglacial ecosystem is a part of the deceased leviathan that people have been talking about all over TikTok and have been showing on Google Earth. I think that there was a giant beast that died underneath or just on top of Antarctica, and then once it froze over, it held all that blood in place. And just in case you forgot, the reason why blood turns red is because the iron meets the oxygen and combines to form a red color. So whatever creature those blood falls were made out of, it had to have been huge. Perhaps it was made by the Leviathan, and maybe that creature isn't guarding this gate anymore. Or maybe it was another one of the creatures that is supposed to be in between these other ice wall gates. And, you know, there's also that anomaly in the Atlantic Ocean. I think that has something to do with all this information that has been coming out lately as well.
Unfortunately, I think this guy's on to nothing. This is just simply one of the biggest stretches I've seen someone take on TikTok in a while, and I thought it would be funny to add it in here. Even if this guy was correct and there was a leviathan trapped under the ice in Antarctica, it wouldn't be able to lose that much blood for that long of a period of time and continue to live. The entire idea is a bit ridiculous.
No one tells you that Stonehenge was rebuilt by cranes and machines in 1958. You're made to believe Stonehenge was a mystery, and we don't know how it was built. But how long have we been rebuilding it exactly? The truth is, the reconstruction effort started even earlier. In 1901, one of the stones was straightened and set in concrete. More work followed in 1919, 1920, 1959, and even as recently as 1964. These projects involved repositioning stones, re-erecting fallen ones, and using modern machinery to stabilize them. So why is this history downplayed? By presenting Stonehenge as an untouched ancient marvel, those in power keep its mystery alive, attracting tourists and maintaining a profitable narrative. The idea that our ancestors had lost enigmatic knowledge adds to the intrigue and fascination, overshadowing the fact that modern interventions played a big role. Now we know the truth about Stonehenge. It's not what it's made out to be. It's not ancient. It's a lie. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
So I'm not really sure what to think about this one. Those photos look pretty convincing, but I'm going to guess those are probably AI generated. Although it wouldn't surprise me if this were true, I'm going to need a little bit more evidence to convince me. If anyone's heard this theory before and thinks there's something to it, drop me a message over in the Discord server and point me in the right direction to start digging. I'd greatly appreciate it. This is the first time that I've heard of this claim.
Okay, I'm taking a video. If I don't video it, nobody's going to believe me. See, not really any wind. And then you see this happy tree over here. Happy tree! Do you see it? This is a happy tree, just a waving. How weird is that? So cool.
That's one of Bob Ross's happy little trees. I'm not sure what's causing that, but I do know that trees communicate with one another, that they exhibit behaviors and responses that indicate a level of sensitivity to and awareness of their surroundings, which could be described as sentience. So if I had to guess here, we're seeing the tree responding to something in its environment. Simple as that. Very fascinating.
But when I made some breakthroughs in chemotherapy in 2008, I was so excited. I was like, ran down the hall to my buddies in the onc world, and it's like, look at what just happened. Like, this is freaking crazy. It's a vitamin A compound, and look what freaking has happened to these cancer cells. went back to my mentor, was like, all right, so breakthrough, now what? And she's like, the best case scenario will be 25 years before those guys down the hall are able to practice what you discovered.
Wow.
25 years. It turned out it would never come to be, because as I moved into clinical trials, one of the pharmaceutical companies had patented vitamin A compounds broadly as a chemotherapeutic agent. So I called them up naively, very excited, got this thing working, it's doing this and that. And it was literally 3 questions. What type of cancers do you think it treats? How long do you think you would have to treat for? Do you think it actually is getting at the, at the apoptosis or suicide of the cell itself? Said, not only do I think, I can show you the data, and blah, 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 and click. It was literally hung up on me. And I just thought, line went dead, or I lost my line, called back, no answer, no answer. Finally, after a few days of no contact, I go to my mentor and explain the situation. She's like, you should have never called. Like that is not a patent that is there for monetary gain. That is something called a blocking patent, making sure that this thing doesn't come to light.
This is just another clear example of the many treatments that could be saving lives being shelved to avoid hurting someone's checking account. It's a sad reality, but this is the way the healthcare industry is run. No one who has the means to make large changes are actively trying to make those changes, because there's just simply more profit in treating the ailments versus curing the disease that causes them.
On the right-hand side of the dollar bill, there are 13 feathers in the wings. There are 13 stripes in the shield, 13 stars just above the eagle's head. And there are 13 cloudbursts around the 13 stars. On one side, there are 13 arrows. The other side, at the bottom, there are 13 leaves and 13 berries in the leaves. The pyramid on the left-hand side has 13 layers. Why is 13 so dominating the dollar bill? Because 13 is a very powerful, mystical number to secret societies.
Some viewer out there might say, well, 13 is an unlucky number.
That's the point. 13 is unlucky for you to use because it's a holy number. The 13 is based on Jesus and his 12. Jesus and his 12 make the 13. The 12 followers of Jesus were called in the Bible the cornerstones of the New World Order. Jesus is twice referred to in the New Testament as the chief cornerstone the builders rejected. The word chief cornerstone in the Bible is a Greek word, means the peak of a pyramid. That peak of a pyramid is a chief cornerstone. The eye is, of course, Jesus. The eye goes back to Horus, which was the sun in the ancient Egyptian. Today, we have that eye on the dollar bill representing Jesus, God's son.
If you're seeking the real truth, if you want to understand what you are and where we are, this ebook will have answers. Check the link in the profile bio.
I just threw this in here because this stuff is fascinating to me, seeing the breakdowns of what all this symbolism means on the back of the dollar bill. I didn't know the significance of why 13 is always considered to be an unlucky number. I've kind of co-opted it as a lucky number for myself. I have 13 letters in my name, and although I'm not a big believer in luck and fortune, I've always had good fortune using 13 as a lucky number. Thought that was interesting.
This is a video that was captured by a bunch of skydivers who were doing stunts as part of a large group. The location, date, or who it was captured by is unknown, and the video just ended up being posted to social media by multiple accounts. There is a little bit of information surrounding the video though, which does clear some things up. As seen on screen, the skydivers have all got their parachutes open and are in some sort of formation. It only takes one person to turn this wholesome and pretty cool looking moment into an absolutely terrifying one. One of the guys with the white parachute ends up straight into another who was in formation. That skydiver gets tangled on his parachute, which causes the entire formation to delve into chaos. The really shocking part was towards the end, when one of the guys falls out of his parachute strap. He can be seen going straight down, but luckily, it was confirmed later onwards that he had a spare parachute, which probably ended up saving his life.
Alright, so the location, the date, and who it was captured by is unknown, but it was confirmed later on that the guy who dropped from his parachute had a backup and survived. Where did that information come from? I just think it's hilarious how the details in some of these videos are so obviously made up. I haven't talked much about this on here before, but when I was 18, I almost went the route of becoming a skydiving instructor. My wife couldn't get past the idea of me jumping out of a plane for a living, though, so that didn't work out. But seeing stuff like this makes me regret walking away from that career path a little less.
After the impacts, it was probably hell on earth, and the people that survived were monsters. And that is probably why people were so savage post the construction of this insanely complex civilization in Egypt. What kind of sophisticated culture exists that went on a different path than we went on? We went on the path of internal combustion engines and electricity, computers. They might have gone a similarly advanced or more advanced way, but with a completely different angle. That's what we see when we see those stone structures. I'm worried that that could happen to us. There would be very little evidence of the society that's left. You'd have a small group of people that survived and lived in utter barbaric condition. When you look at human beings like 6,000, 5,000 years ago, we think of Babylonia and ancient Sumer, and this is the first mathematics, the first written language, the first agriculture. What we're probably seeing is a reemergence of civilization, not the birth of civilization. And that for the 6,000 years plus.
I would even go as far as to say that it's possible, and in my mind even likely, that this has happened multiple times before. We could very well be the 30th version of an advanced civilization that's emerged on this planet only to be eventually wiped out by natural disaster. What we're digging into right now, trying to rediscover from the last civilization, they may have been actively working on trying to rediscover lost technologies from a civilization that predated them. There's really no way of knowing just how far back this all goes. We could be hundreds of civilizations deep at this point and not even realize it.
This comedian exposes what your favorite athletes and celebrities do behind the scenes.
You know, let me tell you something about celebrities. Let me tell you something about some big sports stars. If you honestly knew what some of your favorite big superstars really did behind closed doors, if you knew what your favorite late night talk show host did behind closed doors, if you really knew what your favorite radio star, TV star, newscaster truly did behind closed doors. None of us are perfect. We all do weird things. We're all freaky and weird and crazy. But if you knew, you wouldn't follow half the people. You wouldn't listen. And I tell you what, I put doctors on that list. I put CEOs on that list. I put the everyday person on that list. People are wrapped up watching the news, listening to their stars, because that's the way you've been programmed your whole life. We're still in the Roman Empire, baby. Feed them and entertain them just enough, and we shall control them through fear. And they will do whatever we want. We have a dictatorship.
He didn't really expose anything other than saying they do weird stuff, but I'm sure he knows. That dude spilled a lot of tea on podcasts and stuff regarding other celebrities and comics. We all know that these celebrities aren't worth the adoration they receive, but the rest of the world needs to realize it as well. So at the very least, we got people out here spreading the message, even if it's not that detailed.
Lunchables have really been a long-time staple in lunchboxes across the country, but Consumer Reports, an independent nonprofit group, issued a scathing assessment of the lunch kit, saying, quote, "We don't think anybody should regularly eat these products." This came after testing that allegedly found some store-bought versions contain high levels of heavy metals, lead and cadmium. They can cause developmental issues in children even in small doses. The study also found concerning amounts of sodium as well as phthalates, chemicals used in plastic packaging that are also known hormone disruptors. Last year, after changing some of the nutritional content, Lunchables were allowed into the National School Lunch Program for the first time, giving tens of millions of children access on a near daily basis. But now Consumer Reports is calling on the Department of Agriculture to remove Lunchables from schools. In a statement, Kraft Heinz, which owns Lunchables, defended the product, saying it meets strict safety standards. The company added that lead and cadmium occur naturally in the environment and could be present in low levels in food products.
Here's your PSA for the day. Don't be buying Lunchables unless you want kids with developmental issues. And even with these reports, they'll likely still keep this in the school menu list. If this doesn't show you that we're all viewed as cattle, then nothing's going to wake you up. They're putting poisons in foods that are directly marketed to children, the most innocent and helpless members of our society. These government organizations and stuff like the FDA don't care about us. This is all the proof that I need.
A piece of the ISS
fell on a home in Florida. Basically, NASA takes the trash from the International Space Station and throws it at the Earth's atmosphere on purpose. And when they do this, the entire thing burns up upon re-entry. It's just so hot, it's incinerated. So in 2021, they did this with 5,800 pounds worth of stuff, expecting it to finally enter Earth's atmosphere last month, which it did. And it burned up, except for about a 6-inch chunk that didn't. This chunk landed on and through a home in Florida with people in it. There's a hole through the ceiling and the floor and the basement. Thankfully, nobody was injured, but I do think this is going to start happening more often with the amount of space junk that's orbiting Earth and no real plan to clean it up. I mean, this pallet was orbiting for 3 years. And they are crashing the entire ISS into the ocean in a few years, which seems crazy, but it is actually the safest option to dispose of an almost million-pound object in space. And before you ask, the answer is no, we can't throw it at the sun.
Assuming that that thing would completely burn up and not go through the top of someone's skull is quite a miscalculation. This is terrifying when you consider just how much trash and debris is supposedly floating around in our atmosphere. Just another good example of the smartest minds of the world doing something extremely stupid that puts other people's lives at risk. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video just like I always am. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're almost to 75,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing. Don't forget to check out www.barry-stepp.com and order yourself a shirt or a hat. I greatly appreciate anyone who's ordered anything off there so far. You're helping me support the channel and keep things rolling, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to post your photos of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic day, and I will see you all tomorrow.